Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
Hey, we're talking about food today.
Yeah.
Who does the grocery shopping at your house?
I do most of it, but my husband Steve jumps in every so often.
Yeah.
I'm more of the overarching grocery shopper because I just feel like I know where everything is. I know what's in our pantry, what we don't need, what we do need. And he's more of the picking things up on the way home from work kind of shopper.
Yeah, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I hate when I go to the store and I'm looking for something specific and I can't find it. And I'll give you an example. The other day I was looking for black-eyed peas. Oh. I went up and down every single aisle. Wouldn't you think it would be with canned vegetables?
That's where I would have suggested you go.
Yeah,
where did you find it?
I never did find it. I never did.
Maybe there was a run on black-eyed peas.
And, I didn't see any empty shelves, but the cashier made the mistake of asking the question, did you find everything all right?
And I got an earful.
Oh, it's like, no, let me tell you about it.
You know what I couldn't find one time? I was so frustrated. I wanted horseradish, and I couldn't find just the regular horseradish, not mixed into a mayo or a cream sauce or something.
Yeah.
And the people who I was asking for help were like, what is that? And I was like, oh,
they didn't know what horseradish was?
Not that time.
Oh, that's weird.
But I figured it out.
Yeah.
I found it. I know exactly where it is now, and I can help anybody.
That's an item you don't buy all the time.
No, we were having some seafood, so I wanted to.
You know, that's funny because I was going to say the creamy horseradish, the creamy stuff, is great with salmon.
Yeah, but I don't want the creamy stuff.
You want the?
I want just regular
You
horseradish.
want the hardcore. Boy, that baby's going to be
kicking and moving.
Well, come on, Mom, this is spicy. Hey, do you say grocery store or supermarket?
I say grocery store. What do you say?
I say grocery store.
Yeah.
I think the Brits across the pond, I think they say market or supermarket.
Yeah, I stick with grocery store. And there are so many of them near my house.
Yeah.
It is, my parents live in upstate New York, kind of far away from everything.
Yeah.
So whenever they come to visit, they're always just kind of excited that they can have their pick of whichever grocery store they want. And there are 6 within a mile. They're like, this is amazing.
Wow. That's quite the options there for you.
It's a lot.
Do you go through the flyers on Wednesdays or Sundays when they come out and look for the best deals?
I have my app for the grocery store that I use the most often. And I go through and I do clip all of those deals.
Yeah.
And it adds up very quickly when you go through those deals.
Oh, yeah.
And I often will purchase things based on those deals.
My wife likes to put the number in at the very end, so she likes to see. I'm like, no, let's just do it.
It feels like you're in Vegas winning at a slot machine.
Exactly. I like to do it right at the beginning because on the screen I can see whether or not it's actually the price it's supposed to be.
And you don't like that panic moment of why didn't that price come down to where I thought it was?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm more with your wife. I like to see the end result.
Really? You like that slot machine thing?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. It's a little dopamine hit.
Yeah. You're like, look how much I saved. Yeah. And then my next step is I always go to after I pay, I always go to the side and I look at the receipt just to make sure everything was rung up right. And if it wasn't, then I'm right back to customer service.
There you go.
Listen, food prices,
they're hard.
It used to be gas and it still is gas. I don't know. Maybe we're just being groomed to pay more money and then just get used to it. I don't know. But going to the grocery store sure is painful these days. And we don't know if it's going to get any better. I've read reports that it's going to continue to inch up. So what can you do to save some money at the grocery store, wherever you're in Britain listening to us, the supermarket? Today, Rachel West joins us on the On Your Side podcast. She's a registered dietitian and editor for eMeals. How are you today, Rachel?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. And you said y'all because you're joining us from Birmingham.
Yes, Birmingham, Alabama.
Alabama. I don't think a lot of people realize Alabama has a beautiful coast.
Oh, it definitely does. I'm from down there, so I totally agree with that statement.
Gulf shores and...
She knows seafood, too.
Oh, I'm sure she does.
Oh,
yeah. Hey, is it painful for you at the grocery store? You're a registered dietitian. You want to be nutritious, but you also don't want to break the bank. What's it like for you?
That's right. Everyone's feeling the pain. It's painful for all of us with grocery store prices up as much as they are right now.
Let's just jump right into it. I think the obvious one is cutting coupons. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Like we said earlier, you got on your app, you try to...
You're just leaving money on the table if you're not doing that.
That's true. It's so easy too, right? I mean, you don't have to clip them. They're all on the app nowadays, so it's so easy. What else can you do out there?
I think the biggest one is make a plan. This one is absolutely key. Making a meal plan for the week is going to save you time and money. And a majority of the time, it's going to be a lot healthier than going through the drive-through. And also, when you figure out what you're going to eat, it also means you're going to stress less. So that inevitable question you get of what's for dinner, it's already answered. You already know what to do. So you can plan your meals down to the day if you like, or you can plan 5 meals or whatever number it is that you like for that week, and then decide what day of the week you're actually going to cook it based on, your cravings or whatever you feel like doing that day.
Walk me through what that meal planning actually looks like. When you are going through and making that plan, where are we doing the plan? Are we sitting down at the kitchen table and doing it? Or is this the quickly checking through the list while you're going up and down the grocery store aisles? What do I need to include in my meals to make sure I'm getting enough for the meals for the week, but not too much and not overbuying?
Right. Well, I think it is extremely helpful to do it before you get to the grocery store, because, if you go to the grocery store, and particularly if you're hungry, like, the results cannot be good for your pocketbook, because you're going to have impulse purchases. There's going to be things that you see that look good, but you don't really have a plan for. So if you plan ahead of time, you can kind of find some recipes that you like, or that that your family likes, whether it's pasta or pizza or whatever it is. You can find those recipes and then make a curated shopping list. So a big key part with that is that you need to check your pantry, fridge, and freezer before you go to the grocery store. I mean, you inevitably end up, if you don't do that, you end up with 5 bottles of ketchup sitting in the back of your pantry. So by doing that, you know what you have and then what you don't have. And so you can also see what ingredients you have left over, and then use those in next week's meal plan. Because nothing saves you money faster and better than something you've already paid for.
Let me reiterate about the shopping during when you're hungry.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I've made that mistake before.
We all have.
You have to go grocery shopping after you've had either your breakfast, your lunch, or your dinner, whenever you like to shop. But you've got to have a full stomach.
It's super obvious too, because you come out of the grocery. At least I do. If I'm hungry, I come out with these grand visions of all of these elaborate meals I'm going to cook.
I've done that.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I am too tired for this. What was I thinking?
I know.
I don't want to cook any of this stuff.
Hey, you also mentioned something about tap into high tech with the online shopping carts. What is that? How does that work?
So I think online shopping, again, if you have problems with impulse purchases, online shopping can be a great thing for you, because you can figure out what you want to cook, have that in your cart. And if it doesn't mesh with what is in your budget that week for groceries, you can keep tweaking that cart until it does. There's no sticker shock that happens when you get to the checkout. Sometimes it's kind of a surprise. So if you shop online, it just helps you kind of figure out what you want to do for the week. If you're meal planning at the same time, you can tweak your meal plan to see what's on sale, to see what's, looks good that week online. And then also too, if it helps you to, to shop, to do grocery delivery, that's an extra cost because there is a subscription fee. But if you're not having all those impulse purchases and it really can help you out there, then it may offset the cost of that subscription rather quickly.
When you do the online shopping and you get to the total line and it comes to $230, you can go back and start taking things off, which I think is pretty nice to have. And you can whittle that $230 down. And, if you need to take $30 off, that's your time to do it, because if you're at the cashier, it's like you've got 10 people waiting in line. It's like, come on, buddy, let's go. We can't take things back. So that's a good idea.
Right. And if you're doing it at home, you can go and be like, oh, do I have something in my pantry that I can pull out to make a side dish so I can take this ingredient off that I don't need this week?
Right.
So, yeah.
So there's another option, and I can't agree with this because I'm a meat guy. I like steak. I like briskets. I like pork, but you said, try to go meatless in order to save money.
I would say you could go meatless or just cut back on the meat. You don't have to give it up completely. So meat is one of the most expensive ingredients on your plate. It's also often the star of the plate. So if you can kind of make it the sidekick or even for some meals, do a meatless option, that's going to save you money. But to cut back on meat, you're going to have to find ways to stretch it. So that can be in ways that you don't really think about either. You don't notice it as much. So stir fries or pasta or pizza or tacos, things that people like and actually love in general, that can be a way to kind of cut back on the meat, but you still get that flavor and you just sub in some extra vegetables or grains or, potatoes or cheese or whatever it is. So you don't really miss it as much, but it'll help you trim back on your budget.
And it doesn't have to be an every single meal thing. That can be part of the budget for one or two meals of the week. And all of a sudden you see like, oh, this was pretty easy.
Yeah.
I can expand to 3 next week or something like that.
We must be in avocado season. I don't know. What is it? This is April, so I don't know when they grow them, but I noticed that they are dirt cheap right now. I mean, really cheap.
Which is really good news for me because my kids eat avocados like by the whole.
Oh, that's
they
great.
Are obsessed.
Are you kidding? That is very. That's
it's
one of the.
It's a great food. I'm so excited about it.
Is it a fruit or a vegetable?
It's a fruit, right? Because it has the seed in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe
just
it is.
Just like a tomato is technically a fruit, but everybody says it's a vegetable.
Right. What I'm getting into, since we're talking avocados, I think I saw it with 2 or 3 for $1 the other day. It was crazy, but you say lean into the season. So that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, if avocados are being grown and there's a surplus of them, they're going to be on sales. That's a lot. That's true for a lot of vegetables.
That's true. I mean, luckily we're approaching prime season for grapefruits and vegetables. And it's always best to purchase locally. If you can, that's going to be the best price, flavor, and frankly, nutrients. There's going to be more nutrients in the actual fruit and vegetable if you purchase locally. And the flavor is just going to be so much more amazing. So if you can look at those seasonal vegetables and build your meals around that, that's going to also help you save money and also reduce food costs and food waste.
Give me a good idea. Walk us through a meal that you would make for your family based on kind of going into these spring, summer, seasonal vegetables and fruits. I want to do something that's maybe a little bit outside of the box of my backup plan of the pasta or the taco. What do we do to incorporate all this? This is your domain.
Sure. So one of my favorite meals that I'm looking forward to making this summer, fresh corn with, corn on the cob, and fresh tomatoes. Those are, they're so amazing when they're in season. My favorite way to do it is to dekernel the corn, dekernel the kernels from the corn cob and cook it in oil in a skillet. You could also do it on the grill, really get a good, nice char on that corn. You can add in some fresh herbs, also seasonal, fresh basil. That's going to be in season pretty soon. And then mix that in with, you got the oil, you can even do butter. Get that really good. You can use that as a side dish, put in some little bit of cheese in there, cotija or queso or, queso fresco, and just mix that in. That's a great, easy, super fast side dish that's not going to cost a lot of money. You can also use that on pizza. You could use it. I love pasta. You could use it there. Toss it in, mix in some ricotta in that pasta just to get that kind of creamy texture. But you're going to use that fresh corn and really taste the sweetness and all of the wonderful flavors that come out when it is in season. Now for tomatoes, the same kind of thing. You could make an easy, quick homemade skillet sauce, cut those things up, put them in a skillet with some oil, add in those fresh herbs, garlic, things like that. Very quick homemade pasta sauce. That's not going to be that expensive to make when you purchase in season.
I really like the idea of stretching food. And when I say that, I'll give you an example. So Sunday is my day to either grill or smoke. I usually grill. It's usually chicken and or steak. And then so that's the meal for Sunday. Okay, say steak, broccoli, whatever, baked potato. Then I save the steak for the next day, and then I mix it with, say, Alfredo pasta with a nice cream Alfredo sauce. So that's the second day, and the third day, I can do Mexican food.
Fajitas.
Fajitas, exactly. So, I mean, we said kind of like stay away from meat, but if you get the meat on sale, you could really stretch that into 3, maybe 4 different meals.
Right. And you bring up grilling and smoking. I mean, the cuts that are often the most expensive are the prime ones for those, like for grilling and smoking, because you're slow smoking it. That fat in the meat is going to melt, make it super tender. It's going to be great. And if you stretch that over 3 or 4 meals, that, cost per meal is going to be pretty low. And you don't have to do a ton of work on those 3 other days.
Yeah, the other thing I do is what I don't use, or if I'm just tired of the steak, I'll just put them like in little sandwich baggies and put them in the freezer. And then, whenever I'm ready for meat, it's there.
Grab it.
Throw
it in a frittata.
It's very easy.
Do you have a price per meal that you try to stay around? I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of us to put it in perspective when we're looking at different recipes. Like, what is this actually going to cost me? What is this per person? Is there a price point where we can realistically try to stick at, where we're going to have a really reasonable grocery budget?
I think pre-COVID, it might have been $250 per person per meal. And that's for dinner, not necessarily. The breakfast foods and lunches can be a lot less expensive than dinner. But, now with inflation, I mean, probably closer to $3 per person per meal. You can still get a lot of great meals out of that, that are you're not going to be bored. You're not going to be eating ramen every meal.
I like having that tangible thing in my head to go into the grocery store and say, okay, can I get through dinner, several nights a week for my family of 4 for $12? Like, can I do it?
Right.
I think that's kind of almost a fun game that for me works. Like, I would love to have that dollar amount in mind.
Right.
What does this cost? How can I make this maybe tweaked a little bit to be closer to that price point?
Let me throw something out there, and don't laugh.
Okay.
But the dollar store sells some pretty good food. And it's $1, and they actually
$1.25 now.
Well, that's true. Yeah, even the 99-cent store, I think, is.
Well, they're going out of business.
They're going out of, we can't buy anything for $1 anymore. But the food at the dollar store, I remember our TV station a couple of years ago sent 3 chefs to the dollar store to create this gourmet meal, and they did,
and it worked.
It was super, super cheap, and when they showed the plate, it looked like something.
It looks beautiful.
It was like something from a resort.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice. So don't forget the dollar store. Hey, listen, Rachel, if people want to find out more about you or eMeals, I was going to say emails. It's eMeals. What's some social media they can go to?
Right. You can find us everywhere in eMeals. Our hashtag is our eMeals. And then eMeals.com, we offer a 2-week free trial for people to check out our app, which we are a meal planning app. And our goal is really to help our subscribers save time and money and their sanity often with meal planning.
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, listen, enjoy Birmingham down there. I'm very jealous. What's the weather like down there?
Oh, it's in the 70s today. It's quite nice.
Okay, well, that's
it won't last long.
Well, get out to Phoenix sometime. And again, thanks for being on the On Your Side podcast, Rachel.
Thank you all so much for having me.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can't, send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.